Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. I'll remind you, as usual, to join the mailing list. The mailing list will help me stay in touch with you if YouTube decides to shut me down, and they might. Who knows, right? The law is coming in. And I will also be sending out a weekly newsletter, so sign up on CanadaReport.co or on CanadaPoly.com. And don't forget, there is an active forum, quite an active forum, lots of discussion going on, and please come join us. It's lots of fun to chat in there. So getting into the news, man, this is a sad story. I kind of, if you lose somebody like this quick to a heart attack, it's hard. It's not easy. And I mean, death is a tragedy, right? And a personal death is a tragedy. An anecdotal story is a tragedy. And goodness me, this one makes me sad. I'll read this out just a little bit, the important stuff. But this is the failing of our medical system. This is what's happening because of their singular focus on COVID-19 and the exclusion of everything else, okay? We'll talk more about COVID in the redacted part of the show when we go over to BitChute and Rumble and Odysee. But this is important. This is important, okay? This is a failure by our government. This is a failure at taking care of people who could have been taken care of, okay? This is an awful, awful tragedy. Horrific. And I'm just going to read one part. Jerry Dunham, a beautiful, kind, mellow soul needed a pacemaker defibrillator to live. It was officially prescribed on February 4th, 2020, canceled April 16th, 2020, falling under the unlawful umbrella of non-essential surgery. Heart attack May 30th, unresponsive in an ICU bed until his unnecessary death June 7th. My oldest, 9th birthday is June 9th, Father's Day, June 21st. That is not easy to recover from. And kids, young kids, that's terrible. I'm very sorry for this person's loss, for Krista. What an awful, awful thing to endure because of bad government policy. Just terrible, terrible. Share this. Read the rest of the letter. Link is in the description. Share it. Man, it's just terrible. Just awful. And avoidable. And that's the point, right? That's the problem with this. We didn't have to do that. But we did, as a society, we did do that. Frustrating. Okay, getting into governance. Despite being asked 5 separate times whether he was aware of the sexual nature of the allegation, Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan refused to give a clear yes or no. The Liberals don't answer questions they don't like, and this is a question they don't like. Why don't they like this question? Because it lays them bare. Because they buried Mark Norman at the time when they were protecting Jonathan Vance, and the highest levels of the government knew it. The PMO, the Office of the PMO, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, the Defense Minister himself, everybody knew. Everybody knew. It was the worst kept secret in Ottawa. Everybody knew. And Mark Norman was paying money for legal defense for having the audacity to build the asterisks, right? How dare you build a ship not using Irving, right? The approved liberal shipbuilder, right? Unbelievable. So that's what's going on with that. The article doesn't go too much more into detail, right? Oh, he's 5 separate times. And it's not even really it's not even really going into detail in the tweet about what this is about, right? Just like, did he know about the sexual nature of the allegation, right? Vance, nothing else, right? Nothing else. Sajjan refused to say whether he knew 2018 Vance complaint was sexual in nature. Dodge. I'm not surprised. Here's an interesting, and by not surprised, I mean, I don't think that there's anything going to come of this than came from SNC-Lavalin's deferred prosecution agreement when Lametti was shuffled into the AG role as Jody Wilson-Raybould was shuffled out, and I said they will somehow get this deferred prosecution agreement in, and they did. And it was like a very easy few chess piece moves, and Canadians were like, oh, well, moving forward. And they did. And with the Sajjan thing, I think the play is just ignore it until it goes away. Just ignore it, because Canadians will just stop asking eventually. And what are they going to do? Vote them out? That's racist, right? So, I mean, obviously, not going to happen. The only viable party is right? If you're talking about the zeitgeist across Canada at this point in time, any news media, anybody basically who's talking about conservatives are talking about them in a bad light. Like even the CPC are like the nouveau PPC, right? Like it's like anything they say is racist or ass backwards. They don't quite understand. That's how the slant is in the media, right? It's not like conservative makes a good point. It's like idiot conservative stumbles upon good point, right? Like it's not. It's that's how it's sold. And the liberals, despite being the people who are literally covering up sexual malfeasance, the guy fathered 2 children. And so I don't know what the definition of like Me Too moment is. I think fathering children is like in a different league than Me Too stuff that I've heard, but who am I to judge, right? Who's defining these terms anyway? But it's interesting that they can protect somebody who's done that, and the press doesn't question it. In fact, the press helps them, right? The press prints a whole bunch of articles that cast the conservatives as somehow bad and the liberals as meaning really well. But, sometimes when you mean well, things, to make an omelet, you got to break an egg, right? Like, well, Cy-Jan, he just messed that one up, despite that being his responsibility, right? We should increase the protection, right? We should have another agency that reports to somebody other than Cy-Jan. Isn't he the Minister of Defense? Yeah, but, clearly he's not doing the job. So we'll get somebody else into the mix, right? What's that? Another $200,000 salary a year? $300,000 salary a year? That's nothing, right? Bureaucracy grows, right? Oh my goodness. Have you seen the extended, how bloated the health bureaucracy has become, right? There's so much money at the top. It's a wonder that the thing doesn't fall over, right? Like, it's crazy. Anyway, they're protecting him and they get good press. And the conservatives are terrible and they get pretty terrible press. But they're still terrible, but they're still the de facto second party. And I think it's not funny. It plays to the complacency of Canadians, right? Like it's like, and the argument is that the PPC would never win. Well, that's just basically not true. You don't have to go very far back to see the Reform Party winning seats, to see other parties winning seats. Yes, fifth parties win seats, right? The Greens won a seat, and the fact that they have 2 and 3 seats is ignored by these people who are zealots for Trudeau or zealots for CPC or whatever it is, true anon, whatever you want to call it. And I think that it's funny that they say, oh, it's never going to happen. The only way to get rid of Trudeau is for Scheer. Excuse me, O'Toole. But it doesn't matter, right? O'Toole will do the same thing that Trudeau's doing. So what does it matter? Like if you successfully work really hard to replace Trudeau with O'Toole, what are you getting out of that? Michelle Rempel is the health minister? Yay! I don't think so, right? Like it's... Yeah, right? Like that's the booby prize. You don't want that as the health. Like that's not great. Like that's not a success, right? Like, yay, we won. What did we win? Oh, Mr. O'Toole and his cabinet. Yay. No. Okay, getting back into the news. It's all about perception. And the left has sewn it up. And that's a very short way of saying what I've taken, 10 minutes to say? Anyway, regardless. Brian Lilly says, proof that the RCMP kept a copy of the gun registry after Parliament ordered records destroyed. Oh, those RCMP, those rascals, eh? I wonder what's going to happen next. I wonder what we're going to find out exists in the files that they just said they deleted or got rid of and didn't actually. But this is interesting. I went back to see what the news was saying at the time. So in 2015, long gun registry records destroyed by RCMP under a lot of pressure from Ottawa. Cabinet ministers, government officials, and senior RCMP figures applied a lot of pressure on RCMP agents to accelerate the destruction of long gun registry records, despite active access to information requests and written assurances from the public safety minister that records would be kept. Investigators working for the information commissioner allege in court documents. When Parliament passed a law to end the long gun registry in April 2012, there was still at least one ongoing unresolved request for information. The documents allege that in its haste, the RCMP contravened access laws by destroying the records related to that request. Does this request become active again? And isn't it weird that it's like they used, oh yeah, those records, the ones that we said we'd give you, they're destroyed. And they're not destroyed. So that's weird, right? Like that's an interesting turn of events. So could we have those records, please? I just think that the whole thing is a pantomime. Somebody sent me something yesterday, and they said, just watch this. You'll understand everything after you watch this. I watched the whole thing. I thought it was very interesting. And I thought basically what the person was saying to me was that the lie that you're talking about, because I often lament that they're lying and they can't possibly get away with these lies. And what this person was trying to convey to me, I think, was that the lie that they've already gotten away with is so much bigger and the evidence is so in your face that this is nothing. Like, this is nothing. This is nothing. Look at what happened in the 2020 election, right? Just look at what happened. Like, this is nothing. And after watching the video, and I think I watched Asbestos Head as well. Not all of it, but 45, 50 minutes in now. It's interesting. I like it. I dug in, and I think that hold on. I think that the amnesia that I talk about often, that people exist in amnesia, about 2 weeks. You live in about 2 weeks, right? You can remember pretty accurately 2 weeks ago-ish, like what'd you do last Friday, last Saturday, right? And like a week before. And after that, it's kind of muddy. It's like, oh, I don't know, I'll look at a calendar maybe. But you don't have much of a memory past 2 weeks ago. And so that's exploited to just push forward with whatever lie they want. And then when I've talked about this before, when they print the news, that becomes the paper of record. So it doesn't matter what's actually happening on that day. If you look at the newspaper, that's what happened, right? And well, just look at when I talk about that, look at the newspaper articles that I'm talking about. The news is not true, but that's what happened that day, right? In history, right? You want to look at what happened in Canada in that day, you look at the news and you go, oh, okay, well, this is what they were talking about. It's a lie, right? It's a lie. But with the amnesic state of humans and the constant pushing of the envelope of, like, don't believe your eyes and ears, believe what we tell you because we're sciencey. One of the things that blew me away was Johnny Bravo talking about the cartoons. He was talking about how everything from NASA released is like CGI, right? And it looks really great, really CGI. But he's like, I'm a grown man watching cartoons. He's like, I want to see the real pictures, right? And I was like, that's interesting. Very interesting stuff, man. Very interesting stuff. I appreciate the person who shared that. Thank you. Maybe I'll leave the link in the description for anybody who wants to watch the hour-long video. But it is not for everyone. I'll say that. How's that? Anyway, the Long Gun Registry, the lies are so big you couldn't possibly comprehend them, and so in your face. It's like they showboat them, right? It's like when you watch a movie and you're like, didn't I hear about something like that happening in real life? Amnesia, right? Commodity prices up 50%, real estate up 38%, and 3 out of 4 Bank of Canada measurements show consumer price inflation above target. What is the government solution? Print more money! Amnesia, right? We don't know what happens when you print money. When you print money, what happens? Venezuela doesn't happen. Canada couldn't become Venezuela. That can't happen here. We're a G7 nation. Thank you very much. Right? You think so? I hope so. I hope they're all right. Right? I hope they are. Global News says battle brewing over another homeless housing project in Princeton, BC. The mayor is saying no. Princeton is not how you say that. Penticton? Terrible. In this city, John Vasilki, oh my goodness, that's terrible, asked the province to hit pause on plans to build the 4th supportive housing development in the city until a third-party review of existing facilities is complete. So they're asking them to slow down on the housing development. And they're basically saying, that's racist white supremacy and you can't possibly ask us to do that. And they're moving forward with it anyway. So, and that's I'm paraphrasing there, but basically that's what they're trying to do. And I think that it is the same playbook being played out across Canada. Same thing happening in Guelph. There was the hotel that's been used partially for public housing and for supportive housing, but now they bought the whole thing for supportive housing. And I thought, this is concerning, considering what happened in Toronto and considering what happened in a few other jurisdictions where they bought hotels for refugees and homeless people and to ease pressure on the shelters, thereby like doubling or tripling the cost of the daily, like, per diem beds in the shelters. Anyway, regardless of that, it goes through anyway. And the people had to protest and demanded their safety back. Midtown wants its safety back, right? And then what happened was they closed, they had a hotel and then 2 office buildings changed into hotel-style suites, I guess. And then they closed one of the office building and then maybe the other one. But the hotel's still running as far as I understand it. So again, they push forward with their plans. They ignore the people who live there and the public. And they hope that you forget. And if you don't forget, if you're tenacious, they ignore you. And they tell you that you're being aggressive and hostile. Right? Church. Let's move into church. What's happening in church? Yesterday, I told you about a Waterloo church that has been shut down from Saturday to Saturday. Yesterday was Orthodox Easter. And now, Harvest Bible Church in Windsor is defying provincial health orders. Dozens seen entering building, many without masks. Parking lot is full of vehicles. So this is either this is starting to happen more and more, or they're going to be crushed the same way everybody else is crushed, right? But they should be able to make their own choice about whether they want to go to this service or not, rather than having the government make the choice for them, in my opinion. National Post is talking about the looming shutdown. So just before I leave the churches, we'll see how this plays out. I mean, we're seeing how this is playing out in real time. Like, your life doesn't stop just because the government says we're on lockdown. Your life continues. Our lives continue. Our eroded freedoms continue until we demand them back, right? The churches will stay locked until we say no more, right? I don't know what else to tell you. The only way to fight this is to do exactly what these people are doing, right? Like, and that's it, I think. I don't know that the government is going to back down on this, and we'll talk about that when we get into the redacted part of the show. Okay, this is the last tab for the YouTube part, but it's okay, 16 minutes, not that long. Looming showdown as Michigan governor orders Line 5 pipeline to Ontario shut down. For Michigan's governor, the 645-mile pipeline jeopardizes the Great Lakes. For Canada's natural resource minister, its continued operation is non-negotiable. The clash over Calgary-based Enbridge Line 5, which carries up to 540,000 barrels of crude oil and natural gas liquids across Michigan and under the Great Lakes each day, is placing a stress on the U.S.-Canada ties and raising questions about how the close allies, which have expressed a desire to work together to fight climate change, can balance energy security with the transition to a clean energy economy. A clean energy economy. I would love for them to point to an example of a currently functioning clean energy economy. Please, anywhere, right? Before we shut down all of our oil and gas, that would be wonderful. In a move applauded by environmentalists and Indigenous groups on both sides of the border, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a Democrat, in November ordered the firm to shut down the nearly 70-year-old lines by May 12th. Listen to the positioning here. This is the National Post. This is of massive significance to Ontario. Massive significance. This is a very big deal. 50% reduction in gas every day, 50% reduction in gas to Ontario and Quebec, and 100% removal of the airport fuel at Pearson International Airport. Do you think that will be impactful on the price of commodities and other necessities? Do you think that will increase the price of food in the short term? Do you think it will have an impact? It will have an impact. It will. It will be a very, very, very painful situation. And it seems like we've known for years this was a problem. We could have started to get started on something to deal with this, a plan B, some would call it, a backup plan, others would call it. But no, the plan is to put pressure on these people. And the positioning that I want you to pay attention to is the National Post is saying that this is an applauded decision, in a move applauded by environmentalists and Indigenous groups on both sides of the border. That's how the National Post wants you to think about this. They don't want you to understand how terrible this would be financially for everybody in Ontario. And there's no opposition. It's not like we can vote out these idiots and vote somebody else in who's going to do a better job. Rachel Notley, Andrea Horvath, is not going to do a better job in Ontario, running Ontario. She's going to listen to the medical officers of health who have absolutely no idea how to run an economy. And we're going to be locked down and shut down forever. We don't even have metrics to open us up. Oh, that's enough YouTube, right? That's enough YouTube for now. They've already shut me down on today, I'm sure, but we'll move over to redacted. But they don't have metrics to open us up. They don't. They don't have metrics published. They're not saying, when X equals Y, then we'll get rid of this mandate. Nowhere do I see anything like that, right? The framework, what framework? They're willy-nilly changing the rules day to day, right? So, I mean, it's incredible what is tolerated by the public. And it is incredible what has been known by the leadership for the last years, and nothing has been done to have a plan B set up in case this worst case scenario situation happens. And basically, we're in a bad situation financially in Ontario because of the bad policies that we've endured. And now it might get a whole lot worse because of bad governance, bad leadership, inability to plan for this eventuality that was being made plain years ago. So that's terrible. Okay, we'll head over to the other services now. So thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com, check out CanadaReport.co, check out SpeakingMoistly.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. And we'll see you over on Rumble or wherever else you get the rest of this program.